Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? It's Derby week, 3 games to go before we go and clinch the title, hopefully, and then maybe on our way to a famous double. We're back again for the Sorare CSC on the Celts are here, and I'm joined as always by McBride Ace. McBride, good to see you, mate. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail. Enjoyed that game against Hearts. Absolutely brilliant. Superb.
Aye, well, the Hearts game was definitely a good one. And you might see, guys, we've got some familiar faces back on. We've managed to pay their bail and get them out of the jail. And they're back here for the stream tonight. Just below me, we've got Mark Patrick there. Mark, good to see you again, mate. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail, guys. Good to be back. Good to get out of the shackles of the police and the judicial system. Good to breathe again. And yes, it's good to be back. Celtic have some positive news of late, so it's good. It's a feel-good vibe. So yeah, good to be back.
Yeah, and we had to get him out of solitary confinement as well. But we've got Sean back as well. Sean, Etienne, good to see you, my man. Hail, hail.
Good to see you, Quinny. Thank you to you and McBride Ace using your resources to pay all those debts that I had to those gangsters as well, because obviously I would ran out a big bill getting all those Sorare cards that have now plummeted 90% in value. So yeah, good to be free and safe and looking forward to starting a new life under a new alias. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, great to see you guys. Great to have you back on, and it should be a good one. Because again, talking about aliases, I don't know if it's quite alias kind of related, but I suppose it is, because when Philippe Clement get appointed Rangers manager, you know, former Monaco boss, former Bruges boss, Champions League European, I think people thought he was coming in with this persona of like, you know, a European level quality and all the rest of it. You know, a man of character, a man of, you know, principles and distinction and all the rest of it, but. It's not really the persona we're getting out of a big PC over the last few days, is it?
No. I think he's lost. You can see he's lost his cool now. You know, that there was the interview last week where he says, you know, he's clearly, you know, the high of coming back from that game where Rangers managed to win the draw, and then they managed to win another draw, and then for the first time ever in football history, won a defeat. You know, they've just went on to a mad run of, you know, post-match activity. His involvement in that whole media sphere at the moment is just mad, and you could tell, like, from that positive feel good of, you know, winning the draw against us, to then realizing just how far behind these players are. You know, I mean, that the fact that they got a draw against us was just shambolic, and, you know, you should have just been saying, you know, I'll take that. Sorry, terrible performance. We need to do better. And I think, like, you know, after Brendan said, you know, made his point about, you know, we'll have some fun. I was saying this to Sean last night. You know, when Brendan actually said that point about, you know, we'll have some fun. I don't know if you guys listened to that. The interview when he said that, he was quite jovial about it. He wasn't saying it in a way where he was out to upset anyone or, you know, or be controversial. It was a passing comment, and you can see Clement, you know, clung on to that statement, and he was really raging and offensive. And it kind of, do you know what it reminds me a bit of? Like, remember Keegan when Ferguson made that statement about Stuart Pearce all those years ago? It's got a little bit of that kind of feeling where now Brendan's just puppeteering him. He's getting them all angry. And I don't want to jump in with bold predictions, but that the way I've seen... I'm going to do it anyway. You know I'm going to do it. It's coming. But I just can't see Rangers getting anything. I just think in their best scenarios a draw. The best they can get is a draw against us. I've seen nothing from them that looks like they can get anywhere near us.
Yeah, I agree, Mark. And after that game where they got the draw against Celtic, his little post-match press conference was just lacking like integrity, just basic integrity. He said, you know what? That was a real opportunity for us. We could have went 4 points clear or whatever it was and been in pole position. We messed that opportunity up. Context of the game, the fact we were losing 2-0, we came back to make it 3-3. I'm pleased with that, but I'm really disappointed because that was an opportunity today. And the stuff about moral victories and stuff, it was a bit desperate. And you just knew that Dundee game. You just knew that was like the way they even conducted themselves about the postponements and everything surrounding that game. We're just like, this is just a recipe for a beautiful, delicious disaster. And you knew at Dundee they were not going to score. You just knew it was you just seen it before the game. You're like, they are not getting anything out of that game. This is just set up beautifully. And obviously the Ross County game. What was the Ross County score in the end?
3-2.
I mean,
3-2.
and Ross County created massive amounts of big chances in that game. So yeah, I'm with you, Mark. I can't really see Celtic messing this up, particularly when you just win the game or even draw. Just draw and you've won the league. But it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of sending offs if the game state goes a certain way. If Celtic get about 2-3-0 up in this game, there's going to be a lot of fun. I think Brendan will be having some fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we were at the game last weekend, and Celtic Park was brilliant. The atmosphere was really good. I think like it's you don't want to be overconfident, but if we get an early goal again or whatever, I just think it'll be one of those days where we'll be on top of things. I think the other interesting thing is you've got a 3-point cushion as well. So Rangers have got to win the game. You know, as a draw, really, it would probably be a good result for them, in my opinion, in terms of don't rub it in. Shell saying don't rub it in. I think it'd be a good result for Rangers to come and draw at Celtic Park, but it's not a good result in the title race. And one of the things we've struggled with a bit this season is maybe breaking teams down, or maybe we get 30-40 minutes into the game, we're not creating many chances, all that type of stuff. I don't think that will happen at the weekend. I think as soon as everybody gets into the stadium, the place will be bouncing, and hopefully that sort of feel-good factor from the last game continues. But Quinny's smiling, but yeah, I was going mental. It's like I was 5 Guinness deep, right? But I was enjoying myself as well. But the stadium was like a kind of European night on a 3 p.m. kickoff. So it'll be interesting to see what it's like on Saturday, but you can guarantee it'll be powder keg, I think.
It was a great atmosphere, and I think that's something that we all felt Rodgers' first time really brought back to the club, or really helped the club tap into again. And we were talking about quotes and all that stuff. You'll probably remember there's 2 Brendan quotes early season that probably set the stall out a little bit for this. It was on his appointment. Any Celtic fans that doubt me, I'll see you back here in May. There was that one right at the beginning, and then I think before the first derby, it was like every time it's the Rangers kind of thing. So Brendan's just, it does feel like he's just got a wee edge. He's got a wee level up in terms of not just the fixture, but the state of play, the game of, you know, having that city rival, putting the pressure on, when to take pressure off yourself, and everything else. And it felt like that game at the weekend was one of the first times it did feel like Rodgers' ball again back at Celtic Park. That kind of atmosphere, the terraces really flooding onto the pitch from, you know, the first whistle. It was brilliant.
See on that game as well, what I liked was we learned from the previous time we played Hearts. You know, like because the last game we were heavily exposed in the wings. You know, particularly Cochrane. Okay, they played Alan Forrest the last game, and he absolutely, you know, terrorised us down that right. We had obviously Mikey Johnson and Alistair Johnson. The double Johnsons done us in. But what I thought was brilliant is that we actually put Johnson right in that space, not far out wide, but he put him in the space so that, you know, he couldn't go out wide and he couldn't come inside. And that both wing backs managed to do that really well, just killing off that kind of wide threat. And I thought that every time Hearts got the ball in wide areas, instantly they were shut down, but also at the same time, they were coming back all the time. You know, they just weren't effective, their wide players. I thought in the first game, George Grant, you can see there exactly the point I'm making them. George Grant in that first game was phenomenal. I remember he get taken off injured, did he not? But he was absolutely pulling the strings. Cochrane was probably man of the match. But I thought that Grant looked dangerous against us on Saturday, but he was dangerous just beyond the the centre circle, but not in penetrative areas and into your box or anything like that. I just thought that we just managed that situation so well. McGregor, I thought, looked back to being the guy that we know that he can be. I thought first half, I thought Johnson played okay, but I thought the second half Johnson was much, much better, and Taylor actually. But we just looked like we'd actually learned and adjusted to it, and I think it was such a good thing to see that. I know that a lot of fans were critical of Ange when if things went wrong, that we just went straight back and done it again. And I get it's a totally different system, but I think it was tactically interesting to see that Brendan did learn for that and apply a different strategy. So I was pleased for him as well.
I was pleased for James Forrest because he looks good. He actually looks like he's back to something like the old James Forrest, and like he takes care of the ball so well. And off the ball, he's always positioned in the right space. So I actually think he'll be a real asset on Saturday. Obviously, we're going to have to play him, I think. But yeah, just such a classy player. Maybe he's lost. Well, he has because he's an older guy now. But he's lost a lot of the kind of his mobility and stuff. But he's hardly that old. What age is he? 31.
31. I love that we've got him in a mobility scooter in a Zimmer.
For a winger, you start as a winger, 32, you start kind of, unless you're John Robertson and you're the best player over 5 yards, it becomes difficult, especially what modern players have to play in teams just hounding you, impressing you. But it was nice to see James Forrest looking good. He's looking really sharp, and hopefully this is going to be a nice change of sentiment toward him, because for years it was just kind of a bit toxic with James Forrest. He didn't really do anything wrong at all. He just wasn't a main key player for us anymore when he had been for so long before that.
For sure. I think this kind of veteran winger role that he's in, obviously we're looking at him at 32. He's not quite at that electric pace. But there's lots of teams around the continent that have like veteran-esque wingers that you don't use them for counter-attacking, but like we've done with Forrest, he doesn't lose the ball. He always does kind of the right thing. And if the ball's on the left, he's on the right. He's good at finding the second striker position to, swing his foot at the ball or whatever. And, even if a guy's 19, you can't guarantee that same output sometimes. And especially the fixture that we're talking about,
I was thinking this recently, Quinny, because obviously Callum McGregor's getting on. He's nearly in the care home. He'll be retiring soon. But it's this idea that you have to put players further and further and further back the way the older they get. I think a lot of modern football and the way teams play and their strategies, it's really dangerous to be sticking, the older players further back. So guys like David Silva, obviously a world-class attacking midfielder, but I'd like to see Callum McGregor pushed up like that, because I actually think it would be quite good to see him as he ages, just kind of playing as a kind of a playmaker, a free row advanced playmaker up the top, instead of having to do what he had to do against Hearts, which is sprint and do big tackles and stuff. And you're like, just don't think A, that's even his game in the first place, and B, he's probably not the best use of his, where he is right now in his career. So yeah, Quinny, I agree with you. There is veteran wingers, there is older midfielders that just breeze games on the continent. So I see no problem with sticking an old James Forrest on the wing, or Callum McGregor pushed right up. What age is McGregor, by the way? Just so
I think he's 30, isn't it now?
Is he?
That's 31.
No, look at the guys in Italy, like 36, 37, and they're just play. But yeah, I'm excited to see this game actually for the first time in a long time for Celtic. I think this is going to be a cracking on Saturday.
See, the thing is, just kind of tying up that point about Clement and Rodgers is like it's not just a Clement issue. It's basically every Rangers manager pretty much since, I guess, Ali McCoist, who obviously those guys are brought up in that culture, so they know not to make the glaringly stupid comments because they know what Glasgow's like. They know our culture. They know, that it can come back and bite you in the backside quite quickly. And probably Van Bronckhorst, but then again, Van Bronckhorst probably, having known our culture as well, didn't make those same mistakes. But all those other maniacs, Kashinyas, even Warburton. Remember, Warburton was claiming that Rangers played well in that game. We'd done them 5-1, and you're like, what? And then, Gerrard, numerous amount of mental statements and so on and so forth. And I think they just get caught up in all of that, their mad, toxic support, just, the battle fever and all the mental stuff they came out with. And having to appease the fans. And you see that, where they're obviously Beale was probably the worst, I would say, for it, where he was basically just hanging out with the fans so much and playing up to them, and they were just like that snarling hatred, that vitriol, and you can see that Clement's just bit that full hook, line, sinker, just taking the full same approach of just being caught up, wants to appease the angry fans with it, the big caricature angry bear logo. That is a horrendous logo, that thing. But he's just fallen right into it, and I think it's going to be interesting. His post-match interview, if we win on Saturday, it's just I'm going to be especially tuning in for that.
I'll be too drunk by then. Quinny knows me by now on this. So. Yeah. I mean, James Forrest, I would start him at the weekend, honestly. I think Kuhn's probably, maybe his form's dipped a wee bit, and getting my aid on as well. So it seemed to be the perfect day last weekend because we were winning, managed to keep a clean sheet. Hart made a few saves. Fans were brilliant, and then Dyson come on, and you get one of the best receptions of the day just for coming on, Quinny, didn't they? I mean, everybody was loving it, and it just really seemed like the whole place was bouncing from, maybe not from the start, because interestingly, Hearts actually started the game pretty well. I think the first 10 minutes they played not bad at all. They had a bit of sort of territory, but then Celtic started to get on top of the game and then scored, and everybody was going berserk. But I would like to see Maeda and maybe Maeda starting the left and Forrest starting the right hand side, because even if Forrest's not doing some of those things you describe as a winger, you can fancy he'll come up with a big goal or whatever at the weekend. So he's got the experience to do that. So I think he's well worth his place in the current form.
And he's not going to lose the ball in a stupid area, and he's not going to do what Yang did at Ibrox. He's just not going to do things like that. He's just such a good player. And when Brendan Rodgers said he's the best winger at the club, I think he genuinely was sincere. I think he meant that. It's just a shame he's obviously, an old decrepit man now by football standards.
Sean, he's like Splinter. But do you know what? We like our beloved Rat up front, and let's hope that he delivers on Saturday. With another goal, a couple of goals even.
Hat-trick.
Yeah,
I think the personnel in this game do make the big difference. We've done this a few times on this stream this season, but it always makes for good reading. I think these are the three derbies we've had in the league so far. The only person missing off screen here for Celtic is Lagerbielke. He did so bad that the statisticians didn't include him. So I
love that. We'll just play a 3-3-3.
So that was the Lagerbielke game, if you remember that one. But look at this. Turnbull, yeah. And then the whole bench, these guys are all kind of gone now, or not key parts of the team, certainly. And then the time after that, second time we played them this year in the league, again, Paulo Bernardo starting this game. Welsh is coming off after 35 minutes for Naroki. We've got Palma starting. And then the bench again, Turnbull, Abada, Mikey Johnson and O. Again, none of these guys are present anymore. I know it's physically one or two of them are, but you don't see them playing anymore. And then the draw that they won last time, of course. Congrats. We've got Iwata in midfield. We've got Kuhn maybe still with his braces on or whatever was going on. He just flew in from Austria. And then again, the bench, we've brought in Yang, Bernardo, Ida with his goal, and McGregor coming back from injury. So, the Hearts game, one of the best things about it for me was, it is the first full-strength team that we've probably had all season long. Midfield is set and ready to go. The defence, say what you want about Scales, but he's in the best 11 at the moment. And then the front three, it feels like all season we've been questioning one of the wingers, depending on which side Dyson was playing on. But if we're going to get Forrest in this vein of form, I don't think anyone's going to question it. So it feels like the squad is really set for this one, like perfectly almost, you know.
Yeah, I think like we certainly look confident. I think the thing about having Forrest starting the game as well is that, you know, to end that game, you've got, you know, probably Kuhn and I would imagine it would be Palmer. So you've got that kind of explosiveness from Kuhn to come off the bench as well, you know, if required. Whereas obviously Forrest wouldn't have given you that same kind of energy in terms of pace and power. So I think it's probably smarter to start Forrest in the match and then have Kuhn coming off the bench, you know, to give us a bit of kind of energy if needed in the later parts. Yeah. But definitely much more confident. Like, I remember Brendan's first spell at Celtic, and genuinely, I remember saying to some of my friends before, like, it was pipe and slippers. I remember went on those unbeaten runs. You knew they were just going to do teams, and there's a little bit of swagger again now, a predictability, not just about the, you know, obviously McBride does the lineups and stuff like that. There's a bit of more predictability about the lineups again, and there's a bit more of a kind of feel good factor as well, and the performances. I thought the performance against, like, I think it's worth mentioning that Hearts were good in that game. Like, you know, they weren't poor. It's just they couldn't get near us, and you know, when I mean the clinical finishing was just nuts. I think people obviously commented on, you know, if Kyogo's runs had been found more often, he'd have got more goals, and they're absolutely right. I mean, that run for the goal, that, you know, the delivery from O'Reilly's world class, the finish is world class, but Kyogo's making that run all the time. He's just not getting the ball. So it's good to see that, and, you know, finally coming together. So it just feels like a lot of good things. You know, I know we're, you know, the amount of shows we've done and the amount of negativity and stuff. So it is good to actually be going into a game feeling really positive. And as someone's already said, don't jinx it. I'm sorry, but we can only call it as we see it, and we are confident getting into this one.
Yeah, I think it is important to remember, though, Mark, that we shouldn't really be in this position. I mean, this is pretty outlandish that we do have 3 games to go and the league isn't already won. Like, so I hope that just because we win this, well, hopefully win this league, people don't just revise the actual reality of the last, 6 months or so, because there's been some real poor stuff, particularly from Rodgers. He's not really done much different to what Ange was doing as well. He's not really inspired us. He's not really filled us with the same confidence as he did before. He's not put things on the pitch that excite us and make us want to see the next game. There's chunks of this season that were just felt really hopeless. And it's nice that at the end of the season, like you mentioned, Clement, he's got a bit of that.
Sean, your mic is going crazy now.
Oh, has it?
Aye.
It's the deep state. What about now?
Still same.
Oh, I think that's it.
It's back with a bang.
Oh, he's on it.
That's better. We can't hear you.
No, it's that. I thought you'd went full Donald Trump there. Believe me, nobody knows more about hysteric than me. No, I can't hear it. It's a silent disco.
But is that?
That's
yeah.
That's good.
I've taken that microphone out because clearly that this microphone is a member of the Orange Lodge. So
Sabotage.
anyway, I don't even know what I'm saying. Anyway, it was a really sensible point. It was bang on the money.
You were talking about how it doesn't cover over the fact that there's
there's been some real, and it's not been the most inspiring Brendan Rodgers season, and he has just kind of deferred a lot clearly to Kennedy and Strachan and played the same way that Ange was playing. And it's not been exciting, and there's been big spells where you're like, oh, this game is going to be an absolute chore today. But it is nice that the last little bit of the season we are going into that game, like you say, Clement, with a bit of swagger, because that's always fun. And if we win that game, or even if we draw that game on Saturday, It's going to be a good couple of weeks. Just waiting to lift another title.
See the thing, Sean, right? Like, I agree with all that. I mean, as I say, we've mucked and moaned about how bad it's been, and rightly so, because it's summer. I mean, we talked about the signings. I mean, all summer, pretty much, we, especially you, me, and McBride, were raging about the kind of signings that had get made. But prior to that Rangers game, I think if we're all honest with each other, there was a kind of inevitability that we'd fallen behind, like, with that gap, and you kind of thought, this, if they can go on and win this now, there was a kind of feeling of that. So the way that that first half, I mean, really, we should have smashed them that game really good and proper, and the fact that they behaved the way they did after it, and you could kind of, as like we commented on, and then the fact that they went on that downward trajectory after that, it feels good now to just to be in that position to win it after all of that, in spite of all of that. It doesn't, like you say, it doesn't paper over the cracks of all of the, I mean, we still feel the same way about Lowell and Desmond and all of the mess going on there. But that's that we can complain about that all summer as we prepare to get eliminated. No, we are, because we go straight into the Champions League this.
I think we do. We do, provided
we win the title. But
yeah,
right. So okay, so it gives us a bit of money to invest as well. There's going to be, as all of those super scoreboard punters are constantly touting about for Rangers, a war chest. Will be provided.
It's always battle fever and war chests. It's always like, some militaristic kind of innuendo, or just when they just get a big gun, they go to Ibrox and shoot a big gun. It's just a bizarre culture. But anyway, I digress. I agree with everything you said, Mark.
Aye. I think we need to get the war chest secured, make sure we obviously win the league and get into that Champions League, because
what would you buy with a war chest if you had a war chest?
Well, the first thing to buy is a goalkeeper, isn't it? Which is,
so a war chest is delivered to Quinny HQ tomorrow. What's the first purchase with a war chest?
A goalkeeper, 1000%.
Interesting use of the war chest.
Yeah, well, if Hearts retire, well, the reason that's kind of in front of my mind, especially now, is this morning we've been linked to Liam Kelly, which I'm sure some of you have seen as well. Not to move too much away from the weekend. Yeah, free transfer, Celtic's favourite price. So
backup.
There's some Champions League moves out, and then you've got two homegrown keepers behind whoever's number one or whatever.
Obviously, as a Liam Kelly holder on Sorare, that's a terrible move, because he's clearly not going to be the number one, is he?
No.
Nah. I don't know if he signs, but by all accounts, I've heard he's an Rangers fan and stuff.
That's what I heard as well. And also, and seeing top of that is, like, see if you're Liam Kelly, you're in a Scotland national team. You've got good stock now to actually go and, what is he, 30? Is he 29, 30? So you've got good stock to go now and actually have, this part of your career where you're earning big. Go and take some of that sweet English nectar and just abuse them and get as much money out of them. What, 28? So come on, don't go to Celtic and sit on a bench if you really value your career.
But why have we even needed to sort out the backup at this point? Surely we need to go for the guy who's going to actually play games.
But seeing a serious point, I think Kelly's a great keeper.
Yeah, I know.
But he's not going to
goalkeeper.
But he's not going to. If the plan is to bring him in as the number one, then maybe it's slightly below the bar for what I think we need. But it's not a terrible goal. He's not a bad option. He's better than the backups we've currently got, in my opinion. But I would definitely like to see his goal. And Sean's mentioned so many good goalkeepers that we should be getting in the past, and I don't know why we're not going for them, frankly.
I know it's hard to there's so many good goalkeepers that haven't went for ridiculous fees either. Like, they've went for quite kind of modest amounts of money. I just think Celtic have got a blind spot for that. Whoever's in charge of making the decision on what goalkeeper the club needs clearly doesn't really understand that position as well as they should. But yeah, definitely, I would agree with your war chest usage, Quinny, for sure. But I would like to know what McBride would use for his war chest.
I would use for the war chest.
Oh.
Well, it's a war chest, so I would cover a few positions. Goalkeeper, obvious one. You need a goalkeeper. I think it's really obvious we need a left back. It's no offence to Greg Taylor, but we don't have a backup left back at the moment. So like it's just him, and then what we're going to do, we're going to play Rouse in there if he's injured, or move out Scales or whatever. So I'd like to see Greg Taylor being the backup left back. That's what I'd like to see. Better left back in. I think although we've given Scales a contract, I think he should at some point be a backup centre half as well. I think we can aim to get somebody as good as Carter Vickers, but comfortable on the left-hand side, because we've been exposed so many times this season with crosses to the back post, and anyway, I don't want to get stuck into Liam Scales after he's got a 4-year deal. He probably deserves to stay on, but are we really aiming to go into the Champions League and play 5 home games and 5 away games next season with Liam Scales turning like a cross-channel ferry for that feeling?
Yes, absolutely we are.
And we've got 500 wingers. I don't know what we do there. I mean, but I'd like to see us. When Hatate was out, I thought that we just lacked technical ability in the middle of the pitch. So we've got all these guys who I thought was actually better than some other people thought. I thought he'd done a good job. McGregor's come back onto the game. Got a lot of these guys in the centre of the park, but we don't have anybody that's got that real sort of technique that Hatate's got. So, we touched on it earlier, having all these guys fit, and it's made a difference. You can see a difference in how we're playing, how we're comfortable on the ball, the chances we're creating or whatever, and having somebody that if Hatate was injured, or even just to bring in for Hatate that's got a technical ability, I think would be a sort of key target, especially if not disaster, but if we get a big offer in and we decide to take the big offer for somebody like Matt O'Reilly, then you really need 2 midfielders maybe then at that point, so there might be a wee bit of a turnover again. So yeah, I would use the war chest in a couple of positions, but I don't think we're out the woods in terms of some of the defensive positions as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would agree. I think goalkeeper, left back, left centre back as well. But if Matt O'Reilly goes, I think I'd be good to go back to Japan actually. Get some good young players in Japan. Kuryu, is it Matsuki?
Yeah.
FC Tokyo, and the Mitsuta at the Hiroshima. I think they two would be perfect at Celtic actually. So Mitsuta can play in so many different positions as well. He can be pretty much anything you want him to be. So yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I think there's places we can definitely improve the team, exponentially in the summer. And they need to, because if we are going to not lose this game 11-0 and somehow lose to Kilmarnock and all that, if we do get those, is it 10 games in the Champions League for sure?
5 home games, 5 away games, isn't it?
I
mean, there's just no excuse not to A, dream a little, and B, spend a little, and really go for this, because then we don't have it the next season. We don't have the automatic qualification. So we really need to push here and try to get as many points as we can. Do you
know who I'd have in my war chest, Sean?
I don't want to. On you go.
Carlos Lampy.
I would selfishly, yes, I would bring Carlos in.
Your entire, all your Sorare gallery would somehow mysteriously.
I know they would just be like, this is
Carlos Bacca signing.
I would triple Suzuki. I would get Zion Suzuki from the Belgian league where he's playing with St. Trudien. I would take Yuta Suzuki, who is playing for Brøndby. He's actually on fire. He is on fire. He is
phenomenal. He's unbelievable.
And then you can't go a trio of Suzukis without the main Suzuki, Yuma Suzuki of the Kashima Antlers, who is currently in the form of his life. Yeah, Yuta Suzuki.
Look at those scores. Good Lord.
I watched the game they played against everyone mispronounces that as Midgetland. but
including me and you.
but he is. I've watched the games when he was playing lately, and he has been unbelievable. They've obviously got Chogyu Sun up front, and they've got that Osorio who plays for Midgetland as well. He is absolutely bang on fire. I think he's like 22 years old just now. Clearly, Celtic wouldn't be the only suitors after him. There is so many clubs looking at Suzuki.
Yeah.
But actually, do you know the one player that I wish Celtic would really get is, and it was actually Sean just like really focused on him a good while ago, is Arajanet Muric at Burnley, who I think is one of the most freakish goalkeepers I've ever seen in my life. Burnley are going down. I would throw the kitchen sink to get him. I mean, that's a goalkeeper that you could bank on for about 10 years, knowing that he's just going to be the main guy. I don't think Celtic can get him, but I wish they could.
Mark, recently, I don't know if it's changed because the last fixture, but his goals prevented per 90 in the Premier League in England was 0.71. So he's presenting, basically a goal a game just for just being there. And to put that into context, most goalkeepers aren't just nowhere near that. And a lot of them have a negative goals prevented. They're actually, you might as well stick one of us in goals. But yeah, Muric is freakish. It's annoying because I think Arajanet Muric was a goalkeeper that we could absolutely have got because he was at Man City, I think, and Mark Lawwell had just left that whole thing, and we could have easily have got that. But he's not a goalkeeper that would be great for the heart health of Celtic Park. Some of the stuff he does is just absolutely outlandish, and it does lead to some absolute total blunders like that. Brighton OG is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
I felt it in Sorare.
But he's still on Sorare, scored about 70 in that game, and he the worst mistake I've ever seen. But yeah, Muric, Mark, for sure, that would be dreamland. But I don't know if people could stomach having a keeper that plays that risky style at Celtic Park.
The one thing I was going to say, kind of try and bring this a wee bit more back in terms of relevance to what we're chatting about for the weekend, is I heard on Axom earlier today a really interesting point where, like, if you look at this starting 11 that played Hearts, we expect that it's going to be Maeda over Kuhn. This whole team was here last year. Like none of them is a new, we've been into a summer, into a January window. But in the best form of the season, we're at the peak of our powers, and not one new signing. Maybe Adam Ida, who's on loan, but not one new signing is anywhere near that 11 when everything's there.
That's not a good sign, is it?
No.
For the
it kind of supports supports what we all said in the summer, though, isn't it? Like we all kind of said that these summer signings were really not the caliber needed.
And it supports what we all know, Mark. I mean, it's not difficult to know a few people that work in football that can just tell you what's happening. So if you really want to find out what's happening at Celtic, it's not difficult. And you see it in the results, like you've just said, Connie. New signings aren't making an impact because they're just not recruited properly. And they're not looking at that's what I've had a go at Brendan Rodgers for earlier on doing these podcasts with you in the season. It's like, he should know how to look at someone's basic profile and go, no, he can't play for my team. Yes, he might. No, he can't. And just filter them out a bit better, because Lagerbielke and Naroki clearly not players that he wants to be at centre-back, clearly not comfortable enough on the ball for him, whereas Scales, I think, is actually very comfortable on the ball, despite the fact he's a bit slower and he's got a lot of flaws, but he is comfy on the ball. Carter Vickers is very comfortable on the ball. But yeah.
And that's something we have that probably they don't coming into this, because again, we're talking about the value of Forrest and McGregor in this fixture. Again, just looking at their team from the last game, just for context, we've obviously know Balogun's out injured. It'll be Ben Davis that will start, but like guys like Diamande, Fabio Silva, Cyril Dessers, and all these other two Bob players that they've had come in this season, like. Yeah, I don't know how long it takes to really get used to playing in this game, but you see it. We've seen it time and time again when we play Rangers. They're just awash with players that drown in this fixture, typically, and from what we've seen of them last time in their 3-3 win, it gives me more confidence again being at home for such a pivotal game this weekend, because it is pivotal. We're getting confident. We're maybe getting a wee bit ahead of ourselves, but it's not, if we lose, we're in a lot of trouble.
See that? Quinny, could you bring that back up again? I see the players, if you don't mind, please. So you look at like, just to go back to what you said there, like those players. I mean, it's just a team full of frauds, isn't it? Like Fabio Silva since he's a disgrace. That dive. I mean, the fact that was ever given as a penalty is an absolute disgrace. But he's came to Rangers and he's just utterly hidden. He's just done nothing. He's been terrible. Like, anytime I've seen him, he's just absolutely flat to deceive. And for a guy with the potential that he had, 2-3 years ago when Wolves paid all that money, he's done nothing. Like, he's just and he's in the kind of profile of players that Rangers have kind of been bringing on, guys that just kind of shuck responsibility in the big games. And I think you go back to that team there and you look at John Hardman Lundstrom, absolute terrible season. He's hit 100 there, right enough against Kelly, right? But only after Kelly are down to 10 men and Rangers have had their obligatory penalty. I think like there's just so many of these coward players, fraud players that Rangers have got, and I think the Celtic fans as well, a wee bit of justice back as well, because Rangers obviously got those decisions in their game at Ibrox. I think there'll be a wee bit of bite with the Celtic fans, upset with that, and I think the atmosphere is going to be electric, really intimidating those players, and quite rightly so, because the stuff they got away with at Ibrox was horrific, really horrific, and obviously that clown refereeing. But yeah, I agree with you. It's some of the players in that Rangers team, compared to some of the Rangers players we've came up against in the past, are laughable.
Yeah, I like that Diamande guy. He's clearly a good player, but you do, when you look at kind of their first 11s, you just sometimes look through and go, even that Balogun, I was like, he's still there.
Can't believe it. They brought him back, I think.
He left.
I think they brought him back, mate. I think he was out of contract in League One or something, and Beale brought him back or something.
Just so strange. And then Raskin just doesn't play anymore. I'm assuming he's the worst player of all time now. The left back, they all don't like, the Turkish guy, but he's actually not that bad. It's just funny when you look at other clubs, like no matter if it's a team that you don't like, or just like in Sorare, you have to look at so much football week in, week out, and you just go, that player's actually quite decent, and the whole fan base just hate them. And you're like, that is so interesting how that happens. But yeah, Quinny, it's just not inspiring, the guys that are in their team and your Lundstroms. And that Dessers seems okay, but it's just not very inspiring, is it? Whereas Kyogo's like a serious international forward.
Yeah. Can I tell you something as well? I watched the last couple of Rangers games as well, so I was torturing myself. I've been avoiding watching the games all season, but one thing I really did notice was that every time Dessers got the ball in the box, it was like the reaction to Celtic Park to Liam Scales times by about 3 or 4. So like Rangers fans are proper on the back of or on top of Dessers. And the other problem that Rangers have got is there's a couple of injuries at centre back as well. So Suter had a pretty poor game. One of the games at Celtic Park, I can't remember which one it was. He had like an error and things, and Balogun's actually injured as well. So Davies is coming in to play this game with like 45 minutes of football under his belt last week for how long? 7 or 8 weeks. So, and I don't think we should make any apologies for that, because Celtic have had a lot of injuries this season, and I know there's times where we've looked at it, we've said, well, okay, we've had injuries, but these guys were brought in and not been good enough, and that's our fault, and we've been really, really critical of that. But I think we'll see a wee bit of the other side of the coin now as well when you see the game at the weekend. And I know we're being maybe overconfident, but I just don't really see many scenarios where we don't score a couple of goals. In all honesty, the way we played last weekend, even when we maybe struggled a bit against Aberdeen, we still scored 3 goals. I think we're in better form and fans behind us, all that type of stuff as well. And we were touched on it earlier as well, just the managerial side of things as well. It just doesn't really seem like he's managing that situation very well either. So I just can't see how there's going to be anything other than, us scoring a few goals. But again, it is pivotal. Quinn, I agree with you. Let's not go overconfident, but I will have a can of Guinness opened by about 10:30 Saturday morning.
Don't think that was a clever move.
Well, Michelle brings up a good point here. We can all see ourselves having a good game and scoring a few goals or whatever, but the man in the middle has been getting some headlines. It's Willie Collum. It's been appointed, and a lot of people believe he's going to be getting the straw out and sucking up some teddy bear bums because they've been complaining about him and all the rest of it. What do we think about that? Do we think the ref is really going to, beyond the usual crap that happens, do we think the ref is actually going to make any sort of difference to this?
This is the stuff that blows my mind, because when you hear that clubs like Rangers have, gripes against referees, it just blows my mind. I'm like, wait a minute, guys. It's like,
you get 40 penalties a season.
A real good turn out of these people. So they don't like Willie Collum. Willie
They
Gollum.
complained about him. He's not managed their game. He's not managed one of their games since they complained about him a few months ago.
My dad just calls Willie Collum just Gollum, straight up. Schmeagol from Lord of the Rings. I don't even know. I didn't even know that. So Willie Collum doesn't do their games because they complained about him. Why don't we just complain about all the refs and get all the foreign ones back into doing them? Like
dead obvious Rangers fans.
Guys, I just see, because you said that, Sean. I had to Google Willie Gollum.
Oh no, that's a bad Google search. Someone's done it.
Where are the people?
So they actually really don't like him. They don't like him. That's amazing. There you go. My dad's right. My dad's dreamt up all these scenarios, by the way, that we lose this league on goal difference. Because you remember that one back in 2000 and whatever, the Seville season? Aye. And then it made me have a dream that we get beat 11-0 and lost in it, like, honestly. So there's going to be so much anxiety. So we need to go out and get a couple of goals up in half time and kill all of that stuff, because when you do have Willie Gollum officiating, he might just start, put that ring on and start going bananas and start giving penalties.
Sean.
Precious. And what is his precious? What is he referring to in this scenario?
I don't know. Probably a bookie line that he's got on. He'll probably have
spot fixing.
He'll probably have. I don't know. He's smart enough to realise that even trying to rig it for Rangers is going to be tough. He's probably.
Do the Masons have? Do the Masons have rings? Mason rings.
Yeah, I think so.
Aye, there you go. So Mason rings getting him, starting to talk to him.
That's it.
Just want to know who Sauron is in this. It's got to be someone
VAR, maybe.
staunch.
I was thinking VAR because they're talking to him, from another place. I was thinking that's VAR probably. No, that's a penalty, Willie.
God, Willie Gollum. Anyway, no, Quinny, I don't think the referee have a bearing on the game. I think Celtic are good enough to win that game without. And even if the referee does what he do, a poor performance for whatever reason he wants to have a poor performance, Celtic will have more than enough to win that game just off of pure performance, like we did at Ibrox, by the way, when the 3-each game. Even though we had some poor thing, we were still winning that game with 91, 92 minutes gone. So we can blame refs for soft penalties and diving and all that stuff, but we should have still won that game just based on what we did. So I don't think refs will have much of a say.
There's also just too much high intensity pressing, like in right deep into their defence. So I can't see them being able to manage that for 90 minutes. They're going to concede, and whilst needing to score, they're going to have to be taking risks, and I think they'll get punished.
They have to take risks, Mark. That is the key thing here. They need to take risks. They need to win this game. And they don't just need to win it. They need to, this needs to be a 2-0 for them, or to give them that hope that, they can get it. They can do the goal difference thing. So 100%, we've got to take advantage. And I think Hopefully we will. Hopefully Brendan Rodgers does have that swagger in him, because I think when he has that, he's dead. When his ego's engaged, I think Brendan Rodgers is far more dangerous, and I think his ego's definitely engaged now. So yeah, looking forward to it.
I'm with you on that. I was just having a look at some goal statistics there. Rangers score, what will that be, 26 and 27, so like 54, 55, just over half of their goals come in the second half, and almost 30% of them come in the last 15 minutes. We are quite, there was a comment earlier, we've not really been a 90-minute team this year. We've spoken about that in a few different reasons, personnel, subs, and a few other bits and bobs, but one thing we've definitely been good at, and we're getting better at as the season's rolled on, is starting the game quick, scoring quick, and taking control of the match.
Yeah.
So I think, it's hard not to be as up for the game and as excited as we are, because so much does kind of lend itself, does put us in that kind of space where it feels like it's as long as the boys turn up and do their bit, that we're going to have some fun. We're going to have a great day. But it's just one of those ones where I think when you wake up tomorrow after that first Guinness McBride, maybe there's just a wee bit of the Derby nerves come in. Do we think that could happen, or are we going to be?
Well, I love McBride's having a Guinness tomorrow.
I will. To be fair, last week I think I had about 8 or 9 on the Friday night, and I was due a Cura on the Saturday, so I thought I'll probably behave myself tomorrow night because it's an earlier game, so a few Guinness after the game as well. But yeah, I think we'll be right on it. 12:30. It's a kind of a weird thing. Obviously, you get a lot of Celtic Rangers games on the earlier kickoff because don't want too much of the build up because all the stuff that goes on all around it, etc. But I don't see any other scenario other than everybody turning up and being properly up for this game, to be honest. And you hit the nail on the head. You think back to the game at Ibrox, Maeda terrorising people within 1 minute and all. And I watched some of the Rangers games, said, and they don't always start very quickly themselves. I mean, even one of the games, things against St Mirren, the ball played back to Tavernier and he dawdled on the ball and the guy was through and goal. I think it's only 40 seconds gone here, so we need to turn up and play high intensity. And if Rangers need to take those risks to try and score a few goals, that just plays into our hands. I don't think we struggle with any of that. I think we'll be up for it. Fans will be up for it. Same as last weekend, and hopefully similar result as well.
I think the team kind of picks itself. We normally like to do a bit of a team prediction on this show before we get into the weekend. But I think once you iron out Forrest is probably going to play on the wing with probably Maeda, the rest of the team does kind of fall into place. We've been pretty excited tonight in terms of, excitement coming into this game. I think the last couple of derbies, I've definitely been confident, but there is always, especially when Clement first came in, there's a wee bit of the unknown. Maybe he's not as much of a mug as some of the other guys that have showed up recently, But this one, I do feel fairly confident. We've got a few people on record with saying goal numbers and whatever already, but in terms of score predictions, do we have one for the weekend, or how are we thinking in terms of? Oh, we do. Okay, let's hear it. Let's start us off.
I think that's okay. I really think it's going to be 2-0 with Celtic. I think it's just a clean 2. I think they're going to run about like headless chickens, but I think it's going to be a clean 2-0. Maeda and Kyogo.
Hearts and prayers out for Michelle here.
Wow, that is a sore one.
Yeah.
Ian's going for 4-1 to the Celtic. See, the clean sheet's the hardest part of this for me. Joe Hart did great last weekend. I think he'll want a clean sheet in his last game against them, certainly his last league game against them. But the clean sheet part is so hard for me. I think scoring 2 or 3, going for 4, that would be great. But I think, I'm a 2 or 3-1. But I'm in line.
I'm going to go for 8-2.
8-2.
Yeah,
I like that one. I'm going to go 4-0. 4-0. I think it's a weird one, but I think that it's more dangerous for Celtic when Rangers are sitting in and they stifle us a lot. And I think when Rangers come out, Celtic get a few early goals. And I think I referred to it as shat it in one of the episodes before. But if we get an early goal, then it could be one of those sort of landslide type moments, honestly. So there we go. We'll go 4-0.
Love it. Should be a good one. If we get any one of those scores, I really want to get Sean's 8-2. I'd love to see an
Love
8-2 game. How many
Yeah.
penalties are in this 8-2? That's well, I'm not sure how many penalties are there.
Two for Rangers.
Tav stuck away a couple, and Matt O'Reilly scored one for Celtic. So there's 3 penalties out of the 10 goals. There's 2 sending offs for them.
8-2 would mean a phenomenal Sorare
Oh,
for us,
yeah.
surely.
But 8-2, the last time I remember an 8-2 actually happening, was it not Man United and Arsenal? Man United beat Arsenal 8-2 at Old Trafford. I'm pretty sure that happened.
And that was one of those Fergie teams that when you look back on it was rotten.
Aye, and Ashley Young and all that was playing for Man United at that time.
Did Arsenal not beat Man United in the same season, 7-1?
Oh, maybe.
Was it not like that mad where that kind of... Because it was... I'm pretty sure Wenger was the coach still at that time, but I'm pretty sure in that same season, Arsenal also reversed them.
I don't know. Well, 8-2 was 2011. Don't know. We'll have to get back to you on that one, Mark.
Why do we spend so much time talking about an 8-2 here?
Because it's going to happen now. Wayne Rooney got a hat-trick that day.
Yeah.
8-2, just be great. I mean, imagine eight goals.
I think it was one of the games last season. I forget what the score was exactly, but you know, if we do get that early goal, like we've kind of mentioned in the last couple of points, but do you remember Turnbull's goal where he takes it off McGregor, the back pass, and it was just all the calamity? Like we could, you know, they have that crap in them. Yeah.
Or Quinny, it's 7-2, 95 minutes. We get a penalty. Willie Gollum decides, you know what? If I give another penalty here, I'm getting another 10 grand in my account. And then Joe Hart steps up, smashes it in, top corner. How nice would that be, Quinny?
That would be brilliant.
Yeah, but also not ever happening. This is an unrealistic fantasy. But, you know, we can dream.
Yeah, we can indeed. And I think probably the last thing, I did this last week and we had somebody, I think it was Sanfrecce, saying they've opened a Sorare account and just what's going on and all the rest of it. But I've got some lineups locked and loaded for the weekend. My Celtic teams are all ready to go. 5-a-side fantasy football and all that good jazz. I've got 2 teams in D1, hoping to catch McBride and maybe get ahead of him a wee bit. But a few O'Reillys lying around, a few Atates. I'm expecting a big game in midfield from the boys. Kyogo and Dyson maybe get a wee goal or 2.
James Forrest captain, I admire that. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's ballsy.
That is ballsy.
I'm hoping he gets 2. I think when I picked that, I thought, you know, he's good for 2 decisives. He's good for a goal and an assist or maybe 2 goals, especially if it's 8-2. There's plenty of room for it.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly. Going to break the wee scoring system that Nicholas Julia has implemented.
Yeah.
And then
That's
I'll be all
nice.
out attack effort with Tati in defence, just going cheat code.
Nice.
Yeah.
Controversial. Green, white, and blue Sorare cards.
Nice.
Well, Scotland's
White,
blue. Scotland's blue.
I know.
It's more of a Scotland blue than a Rangers blue, isn't it? Well, it's not either, probably, but it's definitely not Rangers blue. For sure. So, yeah, that's us all kind of locked and loaded for the weekend. But anyone that is going to the game, travel safe, stay out of trouble, obviously, good luck. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything else we want to say or touch on before we close up?
Gamble responsibly.
I'm away for a bet on 8-2.
Good.
Yeah,
I need to
very
get that
responsible.
50 quid, 8-2. Liquidate the bookie with a single bet slip.
Brilliant.
Mark Patrick, anything from you, buddy?
No, just enjoy the game. You know, it's going to be hopefully the one that clinches it for us. So let's hope we can get the result.
Magic. And again, thanks to everyone that's joined us live. We hope we have a great weekend. Hope we're all celebrating in the town afterwards on Saturday afternoon. If we see you, don't be shy. Come and say hi and all that good stuff. And hail everyone. Won the hoops.
Hail.
Oops.
Here we go.